Greetings, colleagues across town and across the globe. This is another installment of Witch Hunt with Paul Colby and the investigators, a show which brings you the stories behind the stories behind the stories. And the way that I get you those stories is I rely on not only my innate ability to find out the facts, but also the work of my highly trained and highly curious investigators. Three of them, although I have many, many, many more, three of them came with me tonight to assist me in an education of, well, all of you who don't know the facts, about what the facts are. Let me introduce the investigators before we go any further. The first, John Doge, who you may know. He is the dean of the Bailiff Causeway School of Mechanical Larvae, or larva, or...
Oh, it is, sweetheart, it is larvae. Larvae. You got to always put a little bit of French in there. Between Austin and New Orleans, you got to larvae.
So these little small things are French?
Yeah, you got to finesse that. It's larvae. Because when you're facing them directly on, those insectoids, they're going to take some offense now.
I see that. I've been told that, okay?
They slap you with 6 arms at once. Not good.
You're also the founder of the Todd Blanche Foundation for Ethics in Government and Yoga, and these days they're part of the same school, right?
Well, first of all, you got to realize that it's Toad Blanchet. Toad Blanchet. We have this experiment now running at the National Mall that we have a habitat that we're doing some things. It was blue, now it's green. You know what I'm talking about? I can't say too much.
Okay. You're the winner of the Fetterman Sweatshirt Design Award last year, right?
Yeah. Speaking of raising strange species, we have this program. It's a pilot that we're trying out. We started with Lindsey Graham. We all saw how that turned out, and now we're up to Fetterman. But I think we're taking some steps backwards, right? Because
I see, and I guess it's all men that you're working with.
Oh, it's all men.
It's all men, okay. Now, you do a lot of this highly intellectual work, but I understand...
Thank you. I do all I can.
I know. You now have a side gig, if I can call it that. You've always worked with con artists, but now you're working with Silicon Valley artists. You have a record label, I understand?
Well, yes, we're trying to bring, we're trying to make an expansive tent. We're trying to use the most contested individuals. So we're going, but we're shooting high. We're bringing in all these individuals. The folks with the rockets and the toadstools and the musk. It's a musky smell.
Okay, so like one of the first examples, the new CD by Sam Walton, I guess it's called Sam on Steroids, Wish You Weren't Here. Did you have a hand in writing that?
I did. I was all over it. We sat on a beach for quite some time staring out, and we had these ladies who came up to us, but we're an exclusive club, and we had to keep our standards, and this embodies, this is where we find ourselves. It's a metaphor.
Okay, and another one, in the news today, you can't go very far before you hear about Elon Musk. So you've got a new CD, Elon and the Musketeers. I don't understand why there are nurses in the attic. Is that just kind of a little artistic device?
Well, yeah, so we have this whole healthcare motif. And so we're trying to take care of the health of the animals we're raising in the reflecting pool. They start with little toadstools, they get bigger, and then we launch into much bigger things. So we go from the metaphor here, and it gets bigger into something here, and then it explodes. So you got to read between the lines.
I see. And so between the lines, that would be the new Bill Gates release, which is Bill and the Chipmunks. Now I understand what chips are. I mean, I'm pretty, I'm pretty attuned to the, that world.
Yeah,
But
Bill Gates and Steve, they had this thing. They sort of had this ritual. So they were the chipmunks. So it's sort of a silicon thing that they were at the top, and with Wozniak. So the chipmunks, they used to pray over their little circuit boards, and now, well.
Well, okay. Now, in addition,
That was the muskrats, wasn't it? Susie and Sam.
And the muskrats, yes, they.
Yeah,
Yep, well, this is before the muskrat became what he is now, right?
Now-
Before the Sergey
now,
Brin stuff.
You are also advising, this is a completely different job, if I want to call it that, where you are advising news programs how to be more entertaining and relevant in the modern age. So, for example, I understand you told 60 Minutes that they need to focus on bad things that happen, that might happen to somebody, but probably won't, but it's scary. For example, it's a whopper of a story. That's what I'm trying to get
I'm
at.
surprised you would go there because, we had, let's call them certain Italian gentlemen. We sort of, we had a collaboration for a while, and so they had a certain way of delivering things that would speak to things that would happen and things that would not happen. You go open door A versus you go open door B.
Right,
and so
right.
they're very useful in business.
Okay, and you're saying also to some of these news shows, if you have to have somebody unsavory on the news, it's better to show them with their pets. Kind of gets people in the right frame of mind to appreciate them. And is that the idea?
Well, you know how people can be. They're a little too savory, they get a little bit salty.
Okay, and some people don't really know how to react to stories, so you've also told the newsboys to put emojis in their stories so people know if they're supposed to be happy or the one I've seen lately, the guy in Florida who is up against every kind of obstacle, and I mean, he's having a difficult battle, but you've got an emoji down there in the corner so people know that they should feel for him and his struggle.
I try to vary my emojis. In fact, I prefer when they stay away from the faces. Those tend to scare babies. I think it's more appropriate that you go with the vegetables. There's all kinds of different shapes of a vegetable. You got the elongated, you got the spherical. So I think that is the most useful way to communicate.
Now, reality shows, you've said to these people that a lot of the reality shows aren't touching people's reality.
Touching people's what?
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. People these days go to various, grocery stores, hardware stores, you name it, looking for bargains. That's their reality, right?
Yeah, I mean, they go to the hardware stores for, example, the no homo slow-mo depot lows.
Okay, I don't understand this last part. I know that you're advising news stories to use more snakes in your coverage. I guess this is because snakes are very popular these days.
Now that's one thing we take very literally. So what are we talking about, reptiles? And I think that it's as a business.
I've got a picture of.
I see.
Of
Well,
you with one of those snakes and somebody sort of eating at the same time that they're dealing with a snake.
Yeah.
Are you talking about a comfort level that people should have with?
Suffice to say, it's what we speak of in business as scaling. When you want to get to the next level, you got to scale it, and the best way to do that is start with a snake.
I see. Now, while people might think that you're just out there all the time with ideas,
I'm completely out there all the time.
I know you are, but you're also looking after people with problems. I mean, I'll call this public service, for lack of a better phraseology. There was a guy who lost 20 pounds. I've seen some of the news stories about it, and you helped him define the 20 pounds.
The 20 pounds.
Yeah.
We had to convert at first. It was a sort of a fat ratio, and I think in Celsius it was $15.
Okay, now where did you find these pounds? They were in a storage warehouse, I understand? Or
They were in a sock drawer over in Kansas City.
okay, and I guess you've done this kind of work with a lot of people. Now, another thing that you do, I don't understand how it works. A lot of times you see ads on the internet these days, and people will say, you've got to buy this whammo product because they're trying to take down this message, and you help people to take down certain messages on the internet, right?
Yes, yeah. The takedown is very important. You don't want the Carrie Fisher effect where you try to smother it and you get this Barbara Streisand on. Yeah, you don't go there in the first place. That's the message.
And you're very successful at taking down these sites, I guess.
I mean, you got to get a folding chair and a little elbow, and then you defeat it.
Okay, all right. One of my investigators, Daisy Chain, approaches things a lot differently. Daisy is a head mechanic at the George Sanders. So there's a couple of those Georges. I get them confused a lot. But the Academy for the Repair of Educational Institutions, and you're also the owner of the Big Hair for Young Radicals fast food and cheap gas flagship in New Jersey.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
very true. Well, as you know, the most important things to today's, economy and population is fast and cheap. And so we specialize in making
and
everything
New Jersey,
fast and cheap.
And New Jersey.
And New Jersey.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Now,
Where we started manufacturing the principles of cheap, fast crap. in this
yes,
country.
you're a lecturer on the role of spark plugs in ancient Greece, and I've always been fascinated by that. Does this, and I know you're promoting a book on higher education. I'm trying to see if there is a linkage there. I mean, I know your new book.
Yes, thank you for bringing up the book.
Your new book is higher education a toxic burrito? That seems to be the theme.
Well, that's the theme and the title. And so what we've learned, let me start from the place of transparency to say that I was flipping burgers at a local fast food joint one day when I got an email from the head of the Department of Education, Linda McMahon, lovely person. And she was randomly emailing people just out of contact lists. I guess my name must have gotten on there because I've written here and there in some children's publications and random magazines.
Random seems to be a key word there.
Oh, yes. Well, this is their whole new push in education, is to revolutionize the public education system.
Now, how far did you go in your educational journey? I understand.
Not far at all, and
almost
that's a
finished.
requirement.
Yeah.
That is a requirement because in order to revolutionize the public education, you have to hire people who have no background in education,
I see.
nothing to do with it. Because if they know anything of the past, then that's going to prejudice them going forward. And so you have to hire people who have absolutely no qualifications, which is why Ms. McMahon emailed me and asked me to write a book on education. So we got together a focus group.
Okay.
And that focus group taught us two things. What do you think the most important thing is to school children today?
Lunch?
Yogurt.
The two most important things are food, but also it is strength, adaptability. And so we thought, what emphasizes those things more than a ballerina and some fast food? hence our two different book covers, as you'll see.
Yeah,
we have-
we were just looking at that, and I was
So we have the one book cover that we started out with, but through our rigorous focus group training, we learned that the public apparently has a deep fear of ballerinas because they're intimidated by their strength, power, ownment of their bodies. So we decided to de-emphasize the strength of ballerinas by having them subject to chomping down on some big greasy fast food. So
Okay.
now their discipline is completely wrecked. And
Well,
our focus group also told us that unfortunately burritos are a little too DEI, so we actually changed it to a burger, a classic, good old
Yeah.
American greasy cheeseburger.
now, one thing that they don't have in outer space, I'm trying to link this together.
Oh, yes.
You're an expert on
Well, that's another part of our
special
education.
needs of astronauts.
Well, like I said, children need to be adaptable. Our SPED and 504 kids these days in school, we found out that they shouldn't be treated any differently than anyone else. So we're going to actually take them and throw them into situations they have no preparation for and are absolutely untrained for. So we're going to throw them into a pipeline with NASA to make them astronauts. And we found that really all you need to be an astronaut is to have different sorts of elements. You need a good suit. You need some toothpaste because it's the only thing you can eat in space, apparently. I found that out.
That explains a lot.
Yes.
They have the Mexican food version of it and the Chinese food version.
Absolutely.
but
You
it's
just put a
all
little
toothpaste.
spice in the
And the
toothpaste.
taco suppositories.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And is
Exactly.
This to use A1 steak sauce?
The sauce helps it come out the other end more smoothly. So that's
Okay,
very
the
critical.
Sauce is probably one of the things that gave you the impetus to study truck religions. I bet that's how it worked. For example, the religion that was in Pittsburgh, Kansas, the guys on the truck, they worshiped that truck they were on, right?
Yes, well, this is a fascinating connection. So we have a school to NASA pipeline with our special education contingent, but we also have a school to prison pipeline. And while we were developing that, we found out that there's a lot of religions in the prison system.
For example, the mermaids and the...
Yes, one of the earliest religions was iconography of reptiles, women, and trucks. And
Okay.
so the wheel was developed from this.
Okay, and there's even a connection to outer space. We've been seeing
Yes.
these truck-type UFOs that land in places like France.
Well, again, a very controversial side to any religion is speculation that some of our deities may have been from another planet. And
Okay.
so they come to us to enrich our cultures, also to get our burgers, which is why if you're interested in that, you should buy my book.
Okay,
Find out more.
also, in your study of trucks and the truck religions, I guess you understand how the phrase came to be popular these days. A lot of people will say, what the truck, but there really was a what the truck.
There was. It was
spelled W-H-U-T.
It was another
what?
fringe breakout. You know how there's Catholics and there's Protestants. Well, of course, the ancient truck religions also had their own offshoots. The truck enthusiasts were very concerned with the ideology of traveling beyond the stars and space lasers. In fact, Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of our disciples.
Okay, now, things that are going on in the Capitol these days, you keep a finger on the pulse there. I mean, anyway, you're connected to the pulse of those events. So I wanted to ask you about all this algae that's growing in the reflection pool there where Abe Lincoln is having a look down, and I'm sure he's not pleased, but why?
Well, this is a common misconception. A lot of people think that the whole fiasco with the reflecting pool is an unplanned and unorchestrated scenario, when in point of fact, this government and administration has been the most intercommunicational that I've ever seen. For instance, the algae
Yeah.
is actually a pilot program between the government, Elon Musk, and Linda McMahon to improve the nutrition in our public schools by changing lunches to include algae, which was a direct recommendation by JFK.
RFK has been promoting raw foods. I guess
Yes.
algae is one, and I guess Elon Musk is also using it as fuel for one of his new rockets, I heard.
While we were conducting the food program, Musk noticed the properties, I believe it was during one of their swimming excursions with JFK in the algae, where they could propel things. So it might develop into a good fuel source.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, I
Organic.
did hear that this is actually called an LGBT, or actually it's LGBLT for school children.
Larvae are part of that.
Well, it's the new menu options, right? It's the
Yeah.
food, it's the inverted food pyramid. You got the algae BLT.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, though, they're very careful about using certain terms because some things might appear too DIE.
And when you
the
say
public.
they, I know you talk to a lot of people
Focus
in
groups.
the administration as well as focus groups. For example, Odd Blanche.
Yes. Well, as you know, Odd, as famously, relies on the kindness of strangers, relies on the kindness of strangers.
Yeah, I remember that.
Famously, but unfortunately does not rely on the kindness of Pete Hegseth, because Hegseth and Blanche have had a little falling out ever since they renamed the Department of Justice to the War Department, completely shooting down Blanche's suggestion of the Department of Wrathful Revenge. But they decided that was too non-neutral.
I have been told that he wanted to change it to the Department of Revenge, but they already had so much stationery printed up with the old letterhead that they...
Well, that's one of the way the decisions happen these days in the Capitol, is if you've gotten in there with the stationery first, it's very hard to change it.
Okay, all right. Let me finally introduce you to Bill Collector, who is, well, he's a heroic figure where I come from. I mean, I know he's grating on a lot of people's nerves, but I understand that. All successful people do that. For example, when I say successful, you are the first male lawn mowing fan from Arizona to become pregnant at a gun show.
That's correct, boss. It was kind of an experimental procedure. It was actually, as part of my I'm trying to build a new me. So it was a bit of a shotgun wedding, but I've decided, I'm actually a surrogate for a different hero and his lady companion that are sadly unable to have children. So I'm the surrogate.
Okay, all right.
And the gun show thing that's just highly overblown.
It's not true.
Let's just keep that on the down low.
Okay. You're also the past president of the Weekend Soul Man School of Dance. That's in Western Europe.
Yeah, that's true. Although I can take some tips from Daisy here, since I don't actually know how to dance. But I think that going along with the whole thing, to not have any expertise in the venue or the field that you're teaching, as Daisy has so eloquently pointed out, I think that's going to be a real moneymaker for me.
Okay, now let me just ask you for an explanation here. I understand you were the one who developed the website Youth Social, and some of the things that I've seen advertising Youth Social make it look like a very wholesome, kid-oriented sort of a site. But I have also seen some things on the well, you know, those other parts of the internet that are not so well regulated, where it appears that you are trying to appeal to the delinquent characters among our youth.
Hey, what can I say, boss? I've kind of fallen on hard times here now that my sort of previous occupation is not in vogue anymore. So I make no apologies for this. I mean, these are consenting 13-year-olds, and I make no
So
apologies.
you're in it for the money, is that?
Yes, and as someone has said, greed is good. So I don't see any, you know, again, they're consenting 13-year-olds. I see nothing wrong with it.
Okay, but now you also claim to have a a social conscience, whatever that means. A lot of these high school boys, they're using what they call nudify apps that take the clothes off of some of the high school girls, and then they're sending pictures around. So you introduced an alternative web device called Cover Up, which puts the clothes back on the girls?
Yeah, it's actually quite successful. I mean, it's only right. If the boys can have a site that undresses the girls, it's my job as a moral bastion of society to found a site where the girls can put clothes back on.
And sometimes they put funny clothes on the
Oh,
boys.
yeah, they put, I'm trying to crack down a little bit. Some of that's getting a little bit ridiculous. Some of these giraffe t-shirts are getting a little ridiculous.
Well, and I hear it's very popular in the Capitol too, between Pete Hegseth and everyone in the Department of War. They quite enjoy a little bit of the cover up.
I bet they do.
Yeah. Although Pete's not, he generally doesn't remember what he's done the night before, so that account's a little bit difficult to manage.
Whatever stays on cover up.
There is this study you did, and I guess it's more than a study because you had a product. You were looking at people who had no regrets, and I guess we all figure that people like that must be very happy to have no regrets, but you found out that they're not really happy.
Yeah, it was quite a surprising result of our study, is that people with no regrets are actually
You talked to
fairly
lots
miserable.
of people?
Well, I found a few, yeah. There's, and I with my partner, I've
Sarah Bellum, are you talking
yeah,
about?
Sarah Bellum, my partner. We've developed a product where we can actually implant regrets into a person's brain, and we found they're much happier with that.
Because they feel like they're part of the human condition, so to speak.
Yeah, that's right. They basically, we're going, what we want to do is, after we get regrets in there, we really want to go for guilt, because that's one of the primary emotions, especially in having some experience in Catholic school. I know what guilt is all about, so that's going to be our next step.
Okay, and I understand you, along with Sarah Bellum, where you were doing these injections or whatever you call them, you also tried to develop artificial intolerance, but you found out there's not much demand for.
Yeah, with the amount of
people
with the amount of intolerance in society today, that just fell flat on its
And
face.
what about this? What about this trillion air product that you have?
That's actually one of the more fascinating projects that Sarah and I came up with, because it turns out air has been around since air was created, so we can actually breathe the same air that Jesus was breathing.
Or ancient Egyptians.
Ancient
or
Egyptians,
Napoleon,
and
or
yeah, and
Stalin.
they all have.
Polio.
Yeah, they have markers that we can tell, actually, believe it or not. You can breathe into a sample for only $9.95. I can get you the sample bottle, you can breathe into it, and I can tell you who
So
also
how
breathed that
come
air.
this didn't take off? Why did I not hear more about it? Was there some kind of problem
Well,
with
it was-
packaging, or?
Well, no, clearly it was a conspiracy by the liberal Democrats to keep us from prospering, because that's what they do. They're all socialists.
I heard
Okay.
that they tried to implement it on the airplanes. That's what took down, what was it, Frontier, or what's the other one that just gone by? They were trying to
The
introduce
blue and
the JetBlue or whatever it was. You know, you put the mask on yourself first, and on your way to the pyramids, Well, if you, they had it full of mummy juice or mummy at expiration, and that's how when people would see their kids knocked out, it was a mess.
Yeah, we did find a problem with the mummy air that the mummies breathe. It tends to have a little chalk in it, and that tends to irritate the passageways. But
The way I heard it,
Great
and you can
stream.
tell me if this is true or not.
Yes.
Okay, he says it's true that Cerebellum wanted to put the air in some tires, and you were saying no, people are not going to want to sniff air from their tires
that-
because they're on their cars already.
yeah, I love Sarah to death, but that was not one of her better ideas. But I believe you've looked into that yourself. And
I was going to buy some Trillionaire, and then I didn't want to sniff my tires. I mean, they're already low as it is.
That is a metaphor if I ever heard it.
now
Sorry.
our RFK
You and
may
your
want
larvae. Anyway, those are my investigators who came with me tonight. But let's talk about some of the most recent goofball things that Trump has done or things that have happened to Trump. First of all, let me tell you, he is always talking about those Democrats, but lately he's having a problem getting his under my thumbocrats to go along with things. So he's trying to play up all sorts of things that are appealing to his far right base. One of them being the UFC event at the White House lawn. That's the Ugly Fight Circus, for those of you who don't know. And I understand the idea was to celebrate America's vulgarity and racism.
In style.
Yeah, and style. And, you know, if you paid enough money, you could even get a pass to be in the special cockpit seating for the human cockpit.
And you got to pose for a photo opportunity with Senator Lindsey Graham if you sat in the cockpit section.
Graham or
Well,
headset.
everyone always loves to get photo ops with the mascots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
With the cockfighting and all that. Let me tell you, that was years of training, and I was disappointed to learn after all that what it actually meant.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah.
I had practiced like you. I had practiced for many months. I always thought it'd be like a sword fight.
Another
Apparently it's not it.
an aspect of this that has not been covered very much in the mainstream media is that AOC and Mr. Raskin both challenged Donald Trump. They wanted to be on the card and take him on in the ring. And you know what Trump said? Well, you probably don't because it wasn't covered. But he said to these fine, upstanding liberals, he said, I'd love to take you on, but the groovy cage fight wardrobe that I like so much, it's at the laundry for cleaning and repair. Now, what kind of repair needs to be done to his, you know, fight cage wardrobe?
I can tell you from personal experience with some of my from my former employment, that was a fairly high expense. Was keeping the whole look.
The dry cleaning bills alone.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe he has a point then.
You should get on the Signal app. You'd hear more of the behind the scenes because that was a doozy to clean.
Well, that's why I have you investigators on the show with me for the few things that I don't find out on my own. Here.
I think it was his Nikes, you know, because the Nikes are going to protect those bone spurs.
Okay, let's. The other thing that's happened lately with Trump that I think is worth mentioning, he's always trying to get his name on things, but he was told by a court official, a judge, I mean, that he needs to take his name off of the Trump Kennedy Center, so it was called. But you know how much he likes his name out there, so after he took his name off the building, he put up a sign, and the sign said that the building was once known as the Trump Kennedy Center, and then when the judge said, take that one down too, he put up another sign, we just had it up there a minute ago, which said this dive was built years ago before Donald Trump was president. So any way he could do it, he's trying to get his name out there.
I got to tell you, boss, I can sympathize with him a little bit because, you know, one day you're a hero and the next day there's nothing and nobody appreciates you.
Obscurity, unless you keep your brand out there.
Yeah, the greatest brand.
Speaking of brands, FIFA is in town, or well, in the country, not in town. And so the president decided with the World Cup in town, maybe we can make some more money with a World Cup. Now, the first thing that his advisors told him would be a good idea is making FIFA great again, except that somebody pointed out that FIFA was already great. So it would be kind of, you know, redundant to do that.
It's like when Santana comes out with a new CD and people say, oh, he's making a comeback, but he never actually stopped.
He never stopped, yeah. That cap, of course, hit the dirt, but then there was another one proposed which would say the World Cup welcomes you to the World Cup. And some of his advisors told him, don't call yourself the World Cup. I mean, the World Cup is kind of a superhero that nobody likes to talk to, unlike you.
Well, and there might be
nobody
copyright
likes
infringement.
to talk to. And so then they tried another one, and they ran right up against the Epstein files when they wanted a hat that said, I just love to soccer.
Well, and he hardly knows her. So.
And he hardly knows her. The other thing, and of course now while all this is going on, Mr. Distraction was ending his engagement with Iran with an MOU. Now, I haven't read the MOU. You've all told me that you've read it, but you have different versions. What did you say was in it?
Actually, the version I looked at was a bunch of recipes, so I don't.
I believe
I may not have gotten the right. There was an algae recipe and a larva recipe, but I may not. In fact, I may have fallen down the job, boss.
I thought I heard you humming MOU.
KEY.
I believe they went through several different acronyms. One was an MEOW, which was a much more extended title.
And I think John was telling me that in the version he looked at, they were going to exchange decoder rings, so...
Yeah, it was a cereal box kind of thing. You had to be in the park at the right point and knew the
They were
navigation.
agreeing to talk about the decoder.
Well, Hegseth has a whole line of protective devices for situations like that. In fact, I actually heard they used their cone of silence at the signing in Versailles. So they're very proud of that one. They keep bringing it
You know, one thing...
They tried that on Versailles.
One thing that Trump has talked about a lot lately is how well he does on these tests that he has to take about 3 times a year, cognitive tests. Now, I got a look, one of you sent me this, one of the pages in the test said, which one is the car? But the president was always getting confused, and so they revised it, and they have a page that actually says, which one is the car, right?
Which one?
The Corvette.
Oh.
Well, and that's where the confusion stemmed, because obviously the president was looking for a car.
That giraffe is missing now, right?
I believe it's been seen at FIFA here and there.
Okay.
It's been rafting a lot. I've seen it rafting a lot. He or she is really enjoying his newfound freedom, I think. But
okay,
well, we
now,
can't ascertain the gender.
Back to the test for a minute.
And I couldn't see the ear, so I don't know which one it is.
Back to the test for a minute. There are a couple of questions where Trump's answers were really evasive. This one in particular appeals to me. How many times is a duck too many? And I guess all of the surgeons who were looking at that said, well, I'll be dadgum. He has a point.
Well, I believe he was also confusing it with the many instances where he's had to duck bullets around the White House and other places.
Okay. He's also taken a trip to China lately. I understand that the reason for that was that he needed, so you were just mentioning recipes, but he very much enjoys these medium rare earth metals, but he doesn't know how to cook them. He doesn't know how to cook books and things, apparently, but you get it?
You know, everybody has their
Well,
specialty.
that's one of those things handed down through your parents.
Well, when he went to China, though, the first thing he noticed was the wall, and he said, "Boy, we need one of those," right? And the only other problem was he looked at the wall and he said, "That's only about 7 or 8 feet high. We need 30 feet high." And they don't make that, well, at least they didn't make that back when they were making the big wall.
I heard he was trying to invoke Reagan when he said, President Xi, tear down this wall.
Tear down, and he didn't realize how many thousands of miles that would have been. So anyway, but you know, a lot of Trump's products that he sells to the MAGA base, they are made in China. For example, one of them is called the Communicator. And a lot of the people who are in MAGA really like the Communicator because when Trump makes an ambiguous statement, the Communicator tells you what he really meant to say, right?
It usually burns out. My family's been through many of them. It's just, you can't even take it on a plane. It just sets fire right away.
Okay, Trump also has a new phone. A lot of people are excited about this phone. If you ask me, they're a little too excited. I mean, I've seen a couple of pictures of men. We even have another one. Yeah, people are really they like this phone because it's preloaded with hundreds of pictures, and guess who they picture?
I think it's in the files, and I would be a little afraid because then if it's attached to Israel, then we probably got, you don't want to carry it because it may just take your crotch off one of these days. Just saying.
You know what? There are already competitors using some of the technology in Trump's phone. The new Aura phone, for example.
The Aura phone?
Yes.
The Aura phone.
Aura phone has the laser beam technology that was originally described.
Better suction, too.
Yeah, well, I've seen an article about it recently in the Backward Times talking about the laser beam technology. I think we have a picture of that. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene was explaining it pretty well while she was still on board. Another thing,
I would have thought it'd been carried into that Denver theater by what's her name? You know what I'm saying? The one, who's the representative was in the Colorado theater?
Boebert?
Yes, Boebert. She would have had an oral phone. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I believe her husband was one.
yeah,
It
I
was
was
boyfriend because she separated.
I was going to leave
the
her
soap
out of
opera.
it
That's
because
true, yeah.
another, well, I can't explain why I was going to leave her out of it, but she would appreciate it if I did explain it. Another Trump product is it's supposed to be a mosquito repeller, but I am a little suspicious that it sort of looks like overkill if it's repelling mosquito. Maybe larvae.
Well, they tell you, yes, if you set them up in a diorama, they're going to repel all the way down. Especially, I got this thing that's like the Grand Canyon.
And then the last thing that they are making in China and selling to the MAGA base is the red ties. And these red ties, well, they sell pretty inexpensive. I mean, for a Trump, the thing about it is, they say that some of these ties actually change colors, and in fact, they're predicting that in November they all turn blue. So you buy a red tie, but
Well, you remember the old mood rings they used to sell. This is
it's
really
all
based on that
same
technology.
technology, yeah.
And they're kind of like, I mean, they go through ties, can actually go through like a larva stage where they change forms. So, you know, if,
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
a bug can do,
between
if a bug
holidays.
can do that, why can't a tie do that?
Exactly.
Let me just quickly go through some other things here that you've heard about the ballroom, but now there are finally articles where somebody is asking or saying what the ballroom is really for, and I am told that the Republicans in Congress are using the ballroom because they realize that they're losing their grip on power. Now, they seem to be feeding on some of these burgers you were saying that you're teaching the astronauts to enjoy, right? And so,
Well, we definitely have some great ball burgers to help support their initiative. We have lots of different food and product lines. But what many people fail to see is that the Republicans are just so ahead of everyone in terms of marketing that it sounds like a slip up, but really it's just about projection. So they heard that white men can't jump. Well, they filmed the ballroom full of balls so that they could prove the opposite.
okay.
Again, our
That-
initiatives to defeat DEI.
Are these the kinds you can sit on with the little handle and bounce?
Absolutely.
Okay, Trump apparently keeps firing women, but what I am understanding is that he is firing people who will not repeat what he says, and he has even considered, yeah, you got that story there. Guess what he's already considering? He's considering having robots in the cabinet instead of people, but effectively some of the Republicans are just like, you know, well, in cabinet meetings you see it already. This settlement agreement that he tried to get past a lot of us as a way of paying back the January 6 patriots, it's had a lot of bad press, but what people don't realize is that all sorts of folks were actually eligible for some payments from this fund. For example, you have one provision says that everybody who was injured in Hurricane Elvis can claim money. I myself, I think I was Hurricane Elvis a little bit, you know.
It was weaponized.
Yeah, weaponized. But next, architects who were given funny names at birth, they qualified for making a lot of money back, you know, from being abused by the government. And then also, individuals who were injured when the government was rounding up saxophones. You may remember that. It was not a pretty picture.
No, they were rounding up all the top brass. It was.
That's, and so really,
Another example of government overreach.
so really these January 6 people weren't mentioned until number 235. They were trying to hide the fact, I guess, that these people would be paid, and they were just called enthusiastic Trump supporters. I guess that is a fair name for them, but it also makes reference to their occasionally savage behavior, which I guess you know all about that. Distraction, distraction, distraction. One thing the president did to distract us from all the other bad news, he said, I'm releasing secret UFO files. Now, the first couple of them just showed UFOs in the air. One looked a lot like a lawnmower to me. Another one looked a whole lot like a truck. You may
Well, and this was a very exciting discovery, as you know, through our
Because of the-
research.
yeah.
Yes, so there was a lot of connections to the ancient religions practiced on Earth, and to find that some of them may have been linked to extraterrestrial activity.
Well, we've got some other pictures. When he finally started talking about really pictures of aliens, then we were getting somewhere. You can go through these pretty quickly. We know that the aliens were working on cars, I think, to try to reverse engineer some of our transportation. They seem to be eating a lot of Chinese food, but they didn't like Mugu Gai Pan. Apparently one of their deities is named Mugu.
Yes, connected to some of our
that's
ancient
why.
traditions.
Okay, another distraction. The 250th celebration. As you know, almost all of the musicians who were supposed to play in the 250th canceled, including the very popular country western star Willie Nilly. He was very specific about why he wasn't going to perform.
Well, the Nilly.
Well, anyway, not enough about performing. One of the few guys who said he would perform is one of those aliens. I think his name is Guy Pan. He's the Pleiadian Elvis Presley. That's what I understand. Now, let's talk. That's about enough, except Trump is also distracting with a new passport after his new wars. Like, you know, we know Cuba is next, but we've seen memos saying that they're looking for another place to attack, maybe some place that people don't know much about, so they won't be, you know, complaining about it so much. Like, you know,
Grenada.
yeah,
Grenada.
yeah, or
Andor.
Tuvalu, or
Yeah.
Estonia.
Easter Island, I think,
Sri
is on the list
Lanka.
as well.
Well, that didn't make the list, but maybe they were thinking about that. Anyway, like I say, the last distraction was to change up the passports so that now you have a picture of one of our leading elephants when you go to try to travel to other countries. Now, let's talk about Texas for just a minute, because politics is not only taking place in the national sphere, but also around here. So you have a new book coming out from John Cornyn already called What It's Like Under the Bus. I wonder what that's about. I think it has something to do with Ken Paxton. Now, there's a claim from Ken Paxton saying that all of the Democrats might as well have been impeached. I mean, for what, I'm not sure, and he doesn't really say, but he's also attacking vegetarianism and all things vegetarian, especially tofu, all right?
Well, we've found a link with the aliens involving that.
So, what?
We've found a link with the aliens
I
involving
know
that too. So that's another concern, is we want to double down on American values,
Okay,
which
yeah.
might be alien values.
Now,
We're not sure yet.
Ken's ads, of course, are basically negative. I think we call them that. He's saying, for example, that divinity school is for sissies. I'm not sure who he's talking about, but, well, there's some sissies out there. And then he's also saying corruption is the lifeblood of our political system, so we have to protect it. But some people need to be protected from Ken, and that, as far as I can tell, is, well, his wife is among them, and she keeps referring to divorce for biblical grounds. We went looking for biblical grounds. You pointed me to a real estate type site.
Yes,
And I
biblical
went
grounds.
there. I couldn't find the biblical grounds there have been closed down for some time. But then I went to the local grocery store and I found some coffee called Biblical Grounds.
Well, there's been some confusion with the copyright. It's a mix-up, but that
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, I understand that. Anyway, Ken is saying everything about this so-called divorce was a misunderstanding. In fact, his wife said that, but nobody has yet said who misunderstanding is.
I
You
believe
know something about that, John?
No, I was just thinking about who placed the grounds in the store. It was the Gideons, right?
Well, they place grounds in every grocery store, yeah, so people will, yeah.
as
They
you're
are
going through the
overpriced.
produce aisle. You
They're
see it.
overpriced, I'll tell you that. As a heroic figure, I'm sure you have an opinion on that.
Yeah, well, I was getting to misunderstanding. She's pretty much a legend on the
She used to work for
pageant.
you.
Yeah, and she's a legend on the pageant circuit. I can tell you that much, boy.
Okay, all right.
Pivots like no one else.
Yeah.
Well, one last thought about Ken Paxton. There's a recipe on the internet that's going around. I've even tried it myself. The Skin Paxton is really good if you're in the mood for a snack late at night. Skin Paxton, hard to beat. What's next for late night TV, given that the administration is trying to inject politics into all of our TV? Well, first of all, understand that one reason for this 1.8 billion settlement package was to try to raise some money real quick, because late night comedy star Stephen Colbert was going to buy Greenland for 1.7 billion. They said, "Come on in. We'll be your 51st state."
Colbert, it's actually French for cold.
Colbert, yeah.
Yeah, Colbert, like
Yeah.
Arctic.
That's why they love the cheese.
So anyway, we can expect more distractions like you were just seeing there, but they say they're going to keep some educational stuff on the air, and an example is the Epstein class. I watched one episode. I didn't learn very much.
Well, it appeals to a newer generation, you have to understand, Paul, because, I mean, we're very proud of the production. It's in production in some of our
You're
public
talking
schools
about
right
a
now.
generation that's under the age 10, I guess.
Well, yes. We teach them a lot about deboning.
I really like educational videos, boss, but Paxton put through that whole age verification thing, so it's really cut into my library of educational videos that I could watch.
Yeah.
It's been rough.
Well, it's a good thing we have VHS, and we already have some of them that we can look at later.
Oh, those poor kids today who won't know how to operate that.
They don't.
Well, not in his van, the VCR doesn't work.
That's true.
I guess we can.
It's the beta is. I still have my Betamax, and that's still functional.
It's so hard to get those materials on beta anymore.
I didn't
Yes.
realize you raised fish.
I guess we can't really conclude a show about public affairs without talking about them darned data centers that are using up so much water. So Trump has talked about draining the Strait of Hormuz. I think, what I understand, he wants to use all that water to cool down the data center plants. Now, how he's going to get it out there, I don't quite understand. Unless he's working with some of those UFOs and truck religions to find a way to get the...
I believe there's a possible giant straw technology being developed.
Well,
Yeah.
he's got that. Remember, he's got that giant faucet in Northern California that it takes them. It's this big, huge thing that's the size of 6 stores,
Yeah.
and it takes 6 people to operate it. So that's how.
Well, what I've heard, there's new technology. There is a plant that's out there in the desert, and it runs entirely on lemonade. So I guess that's the answer, right?
Well, that's just a surplus. What do you call it? A subsidy to the lemon farm. It's Big Lemon. That's what lemonade actually meant originally.
Now that I think about it, it's lemon and water. So he'd still be using a lot of water, wouldn't he?
Yeah, well, with the space lasers will help with that, I think.
Well, and we're planning to keep the folksy angle by having children run the plant too.
Of course,
That'll be another
I've
educational
heard there was also a radical proposal to have the plants fueled by windmills. I don't know why that got ditched.
It was all the sick whales formed a little lobbying group, and they had a focus group like Daisy's group, and all the whales banded together.
Yeah,
Well-
they got cancer out there in the Gulf of Mexico from the windmills.
Gulf of Merca.
In the Gulf of whatever. Like, it's,
Okay, well,
They should never have vacationed there.
well, folks, there's only so much we can cover in a limited period of time, and I think we've probably reached that limited period of time because I see people standing up and our audience is leaving, some of them on trucks, some of them on vehicles from outer space, but
Some on flying lawnmowers as well.
Well, I believe everyone wanted to go visit FIFA, so
yeah,
we can even hear it from here.
yes. Well, anyway, we should be back with you. It rolls around every few weeks. We're back here telling you what's going on because it's so hard to know with the mainstream media of today. That's why my investigators and I come here to let you know what is really happening. So even if you can't do anything about it, at least you know what they're doing to you.
Woo! Mike, D-Mike.
Oh, my butt is sore.